Yale psychiatrist Dr. Bandy Lee gave an interview to Salon.com earlier this week where she talked about the fact that Donald Trump's authoritarian showings over the past week could essentially be setting us up for Donald Trump trying to contest the results of the 2020 presidential election. Now, before I get more into what Dr. Lee said here, and I do agree 100% with what Dr. Lee has said, it is important to point out that we have had people for well over a year now concerned about the fact that Donald Trump may or may not accept the results of the 2020 election if he doesn't win. That is a very legitimate concern. We have had countless people contact us asking, what would happen? What are the legal ramifications of that? And I can go ahead and tell you right now, legally speaking, it cannot happen. The term of the President of the United States expires January 20th at noon. Maybe give or take a couple minutes. I forget exactly what it says, but it is expressly in the Constitution. So that's not something we have to worry about. Even if Trump didn't accept the results, he could not continue being president at that point. He would have to be re-sworn in. Otherwise, his term has expired. His title has expired. He is no longer president of the United States, no matter what anybody, including himself, has to say about it. So rest easy, okay, folks? He can't do that. Because if he tried to do it, as I mentioned, his term would in fact expire on January 20th at noon, at which point he's no longer the commander of the U.S. Armed Forces. So even if he gave an order to them, they could not follow it. He is not their leader. They took an oath to protect the Constitution, to serve the Constitution. They would then have to view him as an enemy and, capture him, whatever at that point. That's what would happen. So do not worry about the president not accepting the results of the election. He can't do anything. He cannot stay in office. He would be forcibly removed if necessary if we ever hit that point. Now, back to Dr. Lee's point, because this is something we have to consider. Donald Trump is setting us up for an authoritarian showdown here in the United States, showing that he is not afraid to call on the military to patrol the streets, to go out there and just beat the living snot out of peaceful protesters. That's what we're seeing all over the place. And he's dog whistling to his uber conservative base that this is okay. This is what I like. Now that's where the concern comes in about any kind of contested election or Donald Trump calling for violence, because he may not be able to use the armed forces, but he does have enough crazies who follow him. Not huge numbers, by the way. It's certainly not as much as he would like to think it is. And it's certainly not enough to pose any real threat to the, country itself. But people could be in danger. Individuals could be in danger before these crazies are stopped. And that's what I think Dr. Lee is trying to warn us about, right? That's what we have to be concerned about. His whistling, his signaling to this part of his base. The people who say it's time for a second civil war, we get the South to redo it. These people do not have the intelligence or the firepower, be honest with you, to overthrow the federal government. But they do have enough to hurt, seriously injure, or even kill Americans in any kind of, protest they decide to do. We have seen that they are not afraid to bring their high-powered assault rifles to government buildings. So that's what we have to be concerned about. That's where the president has to be reined in. He himself might not have any power, but his base thinks he does. And if he tells them to do something, then that's when things could get ugly. That's what we have to be concerned about. But as for Trump staying in office past his term, legally he can't do it. And the people who actually took an oath to protect the Constitution, they would be more than willing to remove a despot from the White House if it got to that point.